We now have the ability to update individual tracks with the update track component. Now let's move on to building out our delete track component. So we have the ability to delete an individual track. Let's head to our track folder. We'll find delete track and then we'll uncomment our import statements. Once again, recognize that for delete track as well as update track, we only want to give users the ability to delete a given track if they've created it. So once again, we're going to need to pass down wrap the import statement for user context within update track. We can paste it within delete track. We'll also want to import our use context hook so we can consume context here. Update track, let's provide a track prop and pass down the entire track object. So once again, in delete track, we will destructure from props our track, and then above our return we can first consume context by executing use context and passing in user context to it, and from it we get our current user. So once again, we can compare the current user's ID with track.postedby.id, and we'll put the return value for that in an isCurrentUser variable. And once again, we'll conditionally return our markup if isCurrentUser evaluates to true. So let's save both of these files. And we'll check to see that our delete track is being displayed appropriately. So yes, it's being displayed if we've created a given track and being hidden if we haven't. So delete track is going to be a pretty simple component. It's just going to consist of a button that we can click to delete a particular track. We won't need to have a dialog unlike our other components. So knowing that we're going to execute a mutation here, let's bring in all the things that we need. We'll import our mutation component from React Apollo, and we'll import GQL from Apollo Boost. And for our JSX, we'll return first our mutation component, and within its function we get access to the mutation, which will be delete track, and we're going to return an icon button, and within it will be a trash icon. And then for the mutation itself, we'll call it delete track mutation, and we'll write it underneath. So again, this mutation only takes one argument, so we'll declare the variable track ID, and that will be of type int and required. Then we'll provide the mutation name, delete track, pass in our one argument value, and we'll get back from this track ID. So instead of creating a separate function that we pass delete track to, let's just add an onClick to our icon button and execute delete track immediately when the button's clicked. And then on the mutation opening tag, we need to add our one variable on the variables prop. Again, that's going to be our track ID, and that will be set to track.id. And I'll add an onCompleted callback so we can take a look at the data that's returned to us. I'm just going to console log it. So let's save and try deleting an individual track. So I'll open my console and I'll try deleting this first one, provided I sign in as the user Doug. And now that I'm Doug, we have the ability to delete this first track. So let's click on the trash can button. And immediately after I do so, I get my return data. I get the return track ID. And once again, our UI isn't updated immediately. For the time being, we can just refresh to see that the return will add an array where we'll specify that we want to refetch our get tracks query in order to remove the track that we deleted. So let's import our get tracks query from //pages/app, and we'll provide that to the query attribute. And once that's added, let's try deleting an additional track. Let's say this test1 track, since it seems to be a duplicate of this track that I more recently edited. So once again, I'll sign in as read. And after logging in with a new user, you might notice the previous user's username in the header. If that happens, just refresh the page. We'll cover how to solve this issue in just a bit. So now I'll delete test1, and when I hit the trash can button, it's immediately deleted from our tracks list.